Hello, all of you race fans, and welcome to another week of the Reddit League Championships. This week is officially kind of a bye week in our schedule. We have a couple set out over the season, but about half the field, as you can see, checking out at the lobby, it's a little smaller than normal, only about 8 drivers today. We decided to do kind of a mini championship. A bunch of the tracks we're not visiting over the course of this season and doing some short races for a little bit of fun, but we're kicking it off in a weird way. We're going to go ahead and set the grid for our first official race by doing an F2 qualifying race at Monza. So the grid order was randomly selected by our coordinator for this one. So before we get into the actual points paying races of this little mini season, we're going to go ahead and jump into the Formula 2 cars and give those a whack around the Temple of Speed out there in Italy.
We're looking forward to seeing what you can do in today's race. Good luck.
So obviously we're also going to be running on fixed setups, automatic ERS, so nobody had a lot of time to had to burn any time to set anything up. It's just kind of let's go and drive. We're taking cars people are not very familiar with into the infamous Turn 1 at Monza. So here we go. The lights go out. Let's see what happens. The F2 cars traditionally do not brake as well as the Formula 1 cars, and nobody's had great practice, so we'll see if this is the typical carnage. Already yellow flags behind. We are way late. Big lockup on the brakes into Turn 1, so we're going to gently get ourselves over the curbs. We've lost a position to Racer 04 at the start. We lucked out originally and got the random draw for pole position, but pretty much immediately cashed it in. But now we got to look ahead, see if we can grab some slipstream and chase down Racer 04, find our braking points into these chicanes throughout as well. Looks like K3's closing up behind us into the second chicane, but we're through there nice and clean, just kind of tiptoeing around, trying to get used to how these cars feel. The F2 cars, very understeery on entry and mid-corner, very oversteery on exit, so definitely a battle to wrestle some of these guys around the track, and especially without a lot of practice. But we should have quite a bit of action today. We basically have split it into 2 days, so this is day 1, as you'll see in the title, I'm sure. And it basically, each day is going to consist of 6 races, essentially, where there's a qualifying race and then 5 races that are actually part of the championship for points. Now, since we're running with a reduced sized grid, we're also going back to the older form of point scoring, where the top 8, I believe, all score points. So it's 10 points for a win, 8 points for second, 6 points for third place, and then you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the rest of the 8 positions there. We are keeping the fastest lap point in as well, so it gives a good chance as K3 dives down the inside, and looks like somebody else has overcooked it, and oh my god, we just get absolutely murdered off the track. And after a pretty decent start, like we were closing up into a slipstream range of Racer 04, now we've been punted all the way back to P6. So not great, and these 5-lap races, once you lose a bit of ground, it's pretty tough to catch your way back up. But we're going to keep our head down and see what we can do in these last 3 laps of this race. Maybe somebody will make a mistake up ahead of us and we can pick up some positions. But again, it's not worth points around this race here. This is just to set the grid order for the next for the first of the F1 races. Now that's Denelson going off there. So as we were talking about somebody making a mistake, he indeed does. So we've crawled back up to P5. But we're jumping ahead to lap 3, just finishing up, and looks like QX Nemesis has had a bit of an incident, but he's getting himself back up to speed. We go around the outside of him, but these F2 cars, pretty good slipstream, so he's going to tuck in and basically get himself tucked back up to speed pretty quick, and he goes nice and late on the brakes, a little bit more confident than we were there. As we get through the first chicane, he's going to steal that position back off of us. But as I was saying before we took the little time jump there, we're only using the F2 grid to set the first race. The rest of the championship races of the day are going to be done with one-shot qualifying, so to keep everything nice and compact and tight throughout it. And then for the start of day 2, we are going to have another qualifying race. That one will be, as we go wide out into the gravel, that one will be in the 2009 championship-winning Braun GP F1 car, so we'll get a nice classic car race around the Japanese circuit of Suzuka, and that will set the grid order for what will be race 6 of the championship. As we get ready to head through Parabolica for the second to last time, start the final lap of the race, we're sitting in an alright P5, kind of middle of the grid. A fair few of the top runners in the championship have stayed in for this little optional event, so QX Nemesis, Denelson,
This is your final lap of the race.
Fast 6, all guys have been pretty quick. As you see, Fast 6 setting the fastest lap of the race so far. No points for him in this one, unfortunately, and a little bit too much gusto on the curbing, and that's going to be a 2-second penalty for us. So now we got to look behind and see what the gaps are, and see if we can't make sure we clear somebody off. It looks like M. Denelson, who's pretty quick behind us. Let's see what the gap is. 2 flat. But a little bit of a lockup into the chicane, and that's going to cost us some time. So maybe we can stretch it out through Ascari, but he's definitely closing up on us pretty quick, and he's definitely shown better pace than us throughout the entire season thus far, as he's battled for wins and pole positions throughout this first bit of the season in the main Reddit League. Yeah, he's already closed up 1.2 seconds. We've picked up another track limits warning, but that's fine. We've already taken a penalty, so we'll just take another 2 before we actually get a little loose and out onto the grass. But we should have a distance clear to the 7th place runner, so we shouldn't lose another position based on our penalties. And maybe if Denelson has a penalty, as Racer 04 takes the win, so he'll be starting on pole for the first official race of the championship. We actually go purple in Sector 3, but yeah, Denelson goes fastest lap, didn't have any penalties, so he goes ahead and jumps us at the tail end there, as Gali is going to be the last one coming across the line in this qualifying race. An interesting experience driving the F2 cars around Monza. Definitely a fun time there, as everybody's in their F2 racer suits as they get on the podium and wave that trophy around a little bit. So the results there, a lot of penalties on the grid, 4 of our 8 guys, but Racer 04 at the top. MJ Povey takes 2nd, K3 3rd, and then it goes QX Nemesis. M. Denelson jumped us on the penalties there. We have gone backwards to P6, Fast 6, P7, and Gali in P8 for this race. So the first of the F1 races of this session and this mini season is going to be at Barcelona. It's left off of our main championship, mostly because it doesn't tend to produce exciting full-length races very often. It's a tough track to overtake on, but when you shorten it to a 5-lap race, everybody gets super aggressive. So here we are, just jumping straight to it, no formation laps or anything, right on the grid. 5 red lights are out. Let's see if we can get a good run down into turn 1. A little bit of wheel spin. It looks like Fast 6 is moving up on the outside of us, and somebody's catching slipstream behind us, having to make some quick adjustments. Easy on the brakes. Try and be gentle on the way in. Gali gets into the back of us, though. Steps us out a little bit. Luckily, not enough to cause a spin, but there's K3 going around. So feistiness in front. Now, these 5-lap races, in a weird way, can be a bit about a war of attrition. Like, just kind of surviving the first few corners can put you in a good spot for the entire race, and then obviously with everybody pushing really hard because of the short distance, makes people pretty prone to mistakes and also track limits penalties. So staying clean can also help you leapfrog some positions. QX Nemesis goes off there, so now as you see, we're up into P5 at the moment as we get ready to shoot our way down the little mid-back straight and get ready to start Sector 3. So it looks like we got the 2 Ferraris in front of us, Fast 6 racer. And most guys in the championship are not running in the cars, not running for the teams that they're doing the main championship in, as Racer just kind of straight lines the tail end of the chicane there. He probably got a straight up penalty. Ones like that, you won't get the 3 warnings before your penalty. You'll just straight up get a penalty right away. But as I was saying, not pretty much nobody else is running the cars that they're running the championship in, I decided to stay in the American Haas team car just to continue to get used to it. Still, after running so much of my career mode in the Williams and hearing that Mercedes power plant, getting used to the sound of the Ferrari engines is still something that's taken some time. So I definitely want to help myself out in that regard and just keep the familiarity up and, you know, also, you know, represent the USA a little bit here. We're starting to close a little bit up on the two Ferraris in front of us through that sector. Let's see if we can't get ourselves up to the back end of Fact 6. DRS does become enabled throughout these races. You don't get many laps to use it since you still have to wait the 3 laps. And let's see. Ooh, Racer off on the deadly curb there. Catch a little too much of that, it just kind of hops the rear end of your car and away you go straight to the scene of that accident, as you saw for Racer 04. So that's another position up for us, and we're getting close to being in Fast 6's range. But as I was saying, you still have to wait the 3 laps before DRS is enabled.
Okay, entering lap 3 now. DRS has been enabled.
And we're jumping ahead to the end of lap 3, and QX Nemesis back on us. That time he's got DRS. He's going to go right by us. We're going to try and grab a little bit of slipstream, have him try and pull us along a little bit. But we aren't going to be able to really attack back at him just yet. To be tentative on that inside curve of turn 2. If you catch a little too much, it can be one of those like death spinner curves. But we're not too far off of QX Nemesis at this stage. Apologies for the sound desync at parts of this video. Computer was really struggling during the session to get things. I tried to fix it where I noticed it, but kind of goes in and out from time to time. It doesn't get too horrifically off, but it does get off, unfortunately. But we have the DRS, but not enough to attack QX Nemesis. We're still chilling in P5 with about 2 laps left to go. And oh, you heard it before it happened, but you heard just caught a little too much of that curb. And just like Racer a couple of laps ago, I did it to myself. Just sent it right over that curb, unloaded the rear end of the car, and curtains. But here we are, tiptoeing our way through. We have a bit of a gap. Denelson comes off in front of us. MJ Povey takes the win, but Denelson's going to get himself running a little bit before we're able to catch up to him, unfortunately. So he is going to go ahead and streak his way off into the distance and hold that down. But we are clear of Gali behind us, so we should come across P5, barring any penalties. And so for the first race coming through, first time with points going around, it looks like the McLaren of MJ Povey is on the top step of the podium, taking the first win there, and I believe he also managed to snag the fastest lap of this race. So MJ Povey up top, Fast 6 second, QX Nemesis third, and Denelson 4th, us 5th, Gali comes in 6th, Racer 04 7th, and K3 P8. So here are the points awarded for the first race here at Spain, and of course with it being the first race, it is also the current championship standings. So now it's time to head to France for the first one-shot qualifying of the session here. Really a lot of runoff spaces, a lot of chances to invalidate your lap time. So it's going to be important to get a quick lap, obviously, but also to do a clean lap. I'm sure that just kind of staying clean can move us up the grid a few spots. So fairly clean yet tentative through turns 1 and 2, but we're coming through turn 3. Almost ran over too much of the curb on turn 4. Had to kind of get out to keep it on track, so that's definitely going to cost us a couple of tenths there. But let's get the power down, see if we can get a good run down the back straight out of T7, and pop open that DRS and try and get ourselves set up for a good run down the back straight and through this last little chicane here. So hard on the brakes, dive it down in 4th gear, a little blip, 3rd gear, get the rear end hooked up, and then finally stomp on the power and get on the good exit here. Another area, you know, coming through this next corner is another, you know, chance to invalidate. As you see, dove in a little early to carry speed, but we were able to get through there pretty safely. And now this long right-hander, you really have to just kind of downshift your way slowly through there and kind of come out to catch the last couple of corners throughout this lap. Very deep into Sector 3 here. Only a couple corners left to go. The hairpin will finish it off. But we'll see what we can do as we get on the brakes, down to first gear, rotate the car, and get on the power as quick as we can, as smooth as we can, and not spin up the tires. Nemesis with the DQ. Fast 6 with the DQ. Looks like a lot of people were third, so Denelson, so a lot of invalidated lap times it looks like. And yeah, basically everybody below us invalidated. So we are starting on the second row of the grid for this short little runner. MJ Povey on the pole. So here are the lights are up in this late afternoon kind of sun. Definitely different than the typical race time, but a terrible start for us as we're just swallowed up by the field. Tons of wheel spin. We're going to try and get to the outside on the brakes early to be kind of safe through turn 1. No death just yet, but we have dropped from third all the way back to sixth. A little bit of pushing and shoving coming through these corners, but so far no yellow flags. Golly behind us. Looks like one of the Ferraris is at the back. Not sure who that is just yet at this point. Well, I guess it's got to be Fast 6 since Racer 04 is in front of us. We'll see if we can make up some ground as people fight through the chicane here. And oh, sideways cars, K3 off, QX off, and we're just trying to avoid contact with people as they're kind of getting on curve. But oh, we get dinged. Apparently an illegal overtake on Delson, and in letting him through, Golly slips by. So unfortunately, the avoiding action, since we gained a position through it, we had to hand that position back. But in doing so, trying to be nice, we let Golly Mooms 5 through as well. So we've dropped down to P7, and now Fast 6 in P last is kind of hounding us behind. So let's see if we can't make our way up the grid a little bit and try and do something here. I'm not sure what was going on with the capture for this session, but lots of frame dropping. I'll have to, hopefully it wasn't as bad for day 2's recording, but I'll definitely have to do some restarts and some adjustments as there's a crash coming into the brake zone of turn 1 between MJ Povey and Denelson. Joins dangerously across, gives a shove to Gallymooms, and we are side by side with Fast 6, and then that must have been some serious lag because MJ Povey, who I thought was launching across the runoff area, stayed in a little bit of touch with Fast 6, and around we go. Just kind of gets the back end loose, and man, a disastrous set of corners for us coming through there. It looks like K3 has come off. We're going to have to try and avoid him. He had a little incident in the middle of the straight, so we're back up a position there. But still a few laps left to go in this race. Definitely opportunity to lose out if we're not careful.
Brilliant. Nice move.
But pretty big gap, 2.7 seconds to P6 in front of us. So kind of hoping for some track limits penalties here and there and see if we can't catch anybody. But starting off the final lap, we're still 2 seconds back of P6. Golly in front of us there. But we have about a 3.1 second gap to K3, so hopefully we are able to hold that gap off of him and maintain this position. You want to keep a 2 second gap in case we accidentally, pick up track limits at some point over the final stretches of this race here. But yeah, now we fall into 3.2. Terrible first sector for us. Really lost a ton of ground there. I think pretty much everybody's settled kind of into this 5-lap race. Not a lot of ground to be made or lost for us. Looks like there's still quite a battle going on just on the other side of the chicane up there. A hefty fight, as it were, but let's see where everybody comes in and see who can make the early moves in the championship. As we start Sector 3, hit the long deceleration zone, the sweeping right-hander. Get on the throttle nice and early. Try and not get the back end stepped out, and then This tough, curving braking zone that tightens all the way into turn 12. The last couple of turns, so QX Nemesis comes across as the race winner first. We dive into the final hairpin, get on the throttle, try and open up a little bit of gap, and cross the line. And we actually move up into P6 thanks to some penalties. So Gali must have been carrying a few penalties there, so that's going to help us out. So here we are, QX Nemesis, winner on the podium there. Ferrari and a Mercedes taking the second and third spots as he's awarded that trophy, and that'll help him out in the early stages. So QX, Fast 6, M. Denelson, Racer 04, Gali Mooms, myself, MJ Povey, and K3M is the running order. So Povey, a lot of penalties, drops back. So Nemesis picks up the extra point for fastest lap, so he grabs 11 total. So now he jumps to the lead of the championship. Povey drops to third. Racer made moves upwards to fifth, and I dropped down to a tie for seventh. Now, typically in the points system, the tiebreakers for tied points in F1 is podiums first, and then best finish if neither guy has podiums. So Gali has had a better best finish than myself so far. So he's got the honors, although we're both on 7 points. But here we are at Hungary, not one of my best tracks, one I've always kind of struggled with the rhythm on. So going to have to just kind of fight through it. But we're out for our first qualifying lap here as we get ready to cross the line for Sector 2's start. Tentative through, I kind of wasn't pushing crazy hard in a lot of the qualifying sessions, especially at tracks I'm not super comfortable with, especially since with the way this mini championship is set up, you're not exactly practicing these, so your qualifying lap is like the first time you're seeing the track for a little while, actually. So just trying to keep it clean, hoping for other people to make a mistake, get their laps invalidated, and move up that way. And then trying to avoid the big deaths in the first sector of lap 1, because it's a quick way to have your entire race just absolutely destroyed. Here are coming out of the final corner. DRS of Povey goes fastest at a 1:16.9. We went a 1:18.9, so 2 seconds almost off the pace. We are P5, only one person had their time invalidated. But here we are. Lights are coming up, and let's see if we can survive our way through turn 1. Pretty decent start on the throttle. Looks like Gali got a better start. Same with Denelson there. Now we're getting to be under attack. So taken to the outside part of turn 1. Early on the brakes, Racer absolutely just torpedoes into the back of QX Nemesis. We have to go around the outside. Not great traction, though, off the tarmac, so that's going to lose us ground into P8. We have a look around the inside of Racer, not quite far enough to get our nose in, and we're just kind of stuck being shuffled to the back, unfortunately. So a terrible, terrible start for us. And looks like everybody else has managed to stay fairly clean through the early stages of this race. So big oversteer moment coming out of the corner. Let's see if we can't chase our way up to the back of this pack. Well, I appreciate you not telling me it was a terrible start, Jeff. That's very helpful. But another bit of oversteer. The back end stepping out on it again. You know, playing with the default setups is not. They're never particularly great. I'd say there's definitely some advantages to be gained with a good setup. But everybody's on it. It's a level playing field, so no worries there. But it just doesn't suit my driving style particularly well. It looks like pretty much everybody's kind of settled in. We're back all the way P8, unfortunately, trying to close our way up to Racer. But it looks like a fairly tight group up ahead of us. But big wheel spin coming out of turn 1 there. We're going to go ahead and jump ahead to the start of lap 3 there. As everybody's, so we're still in last. So, you know, as has been a pretty good theme throughout my normal career in Hungary, I've not ever really performed well. But Racer wheel spin coming out of turn 1. We're going to have a look down the inside of him. We understeer a little wide into him and bump him out wide. So we're going to go ahead and get out of the throttle, let him have that position back. I don't want to, even though it's a 5-lap race and everybody's kind of getting their elbows out, it's just not the way I like to race. So even though it wasn't enough to like spin him around, I had the opportunity to let him back through. I think if he got fully spun, I'd just have to kind of press on. But since the opportunity to hand the position back without, compromising too bad was there, I'm definitely going to do that and let him back through. But unfortunately, that means we're in 8th and then have also cost both of us tons of time, unfortunately, with that little coming together. A little bit of contact. But let's see if we can't. There's a bit of a scrap, a 3-way scrap going on just ahead of us. So that's going to, as you see, Racer's already almost back in that fight, and we're not too far behind ourselves. The DRS is open. Not going to be enough to really close up on him. Still a little too far back. But we get the little second bit of DRS, and we're starting to close up on that squad in front. So we'll see. Maybe somebody will make a mistake, give us an open door to come through. But all that squabbling from that group of 3 in front of us is definitely a great opportunity for us to push on through. Nope, and there is a yellow flag. Somebody is off. Rodalos resetting the track. Wasn't sure if he was going to be ghosted, so I had to go very, very evasive there. Somehow kept out of running into him, but that's one position up for us. He's back in the move, though, and now Denelson off to the left. It's all kicking off now. People are just fighting and pressing a little bit hard in the final stages, so we're up 2 positions to P6. And we are reeling in Racer 04. Maybe an opportunity, if we're good through the final sector, to be able to attack him in DRS, but I think he's going to be too close to the cars in front of him and have DRS. We're a little wide through the penultimate corner there. Denelson just goes ahead, retires this late in the stage. He's going to just go ahead and take the DNF, and the last place finish, it would appear. There we are. DRS is open. Racer's got DRS of his own, so we're not going to be able to close him up, but it is final lap. We're P6 at the moment. 7 cars still running. Who knows what can happen? Let's see what we can do, because there's a big scrap ahead of us. A little bit of contact between Gali and QX. It looks like the leader has just kind of taken off. I think that's got to be MJ Povey that's just run off out into the distance, since the other McLaren is K3, who's behind us. So here we are. Fast 6 on the death curb, goes around. Racer also on that death curb. 2 synchronized spinning Ferraris go around. We're up into P4. It's one of those interesting, brilliant maneuvers. Thanks, Jeff, to take up 2 positions on the mistakes. But it's one of those curbs in the game where if you get that front right tire on it, like, it's gonna just hook your car and spin it around. But we've managed to move up to P4 from P8 in the last 2 laps here. And now Nemesis still a little bit out ahead. It looks like we're going to cross the line 4th. Yeah, MJ Povey comes across as the race winner. And checkered flag is out as we see Nemesis cross the line ahead of us. Now we cross the line, and thanks to some penalties for Nemesis, we are P3. So we pick up a podium at Hungary, a track we were running in last at the second to last lap started. And not a track we're great at, but managed to somehow sneak a podium from that dismal start. And there we are, clapping alongside the leader. Throw ourselves a little bit of champagne. I think I'm going to indulge myself a little bit and show the champagne ceremony of this podium because, I get to be on it for, a half a second or so. Hey, there's my right arm. 3rd place guy doesn't get a whole lot of screen time in the podium celebration, but so Povey at the top, Gali number 2, us P3, Nemesis, Fast 6, Racer 04, K3, and M. Denelson, and MJ Povey picking up the fastest lap point there. That's going to move him up into the championship lead, moves Nemesis and Fast 6 down. Myself and Gali bump up. Denelson, Racer 04 drop down. And K3 still on 4 points for the championship at the back, but still a fairly tight spread this early on. All right, so here we are headed out to Russia and the run around all of the old Olympic venues. Let's try and get a qualifying lap in for this one here. We're going to try and push a little harder this time and just immediately miss the braking point pretty much. So we've gone tremendously deep, but luckily since we took our time re-entering safely, we didn't rush on, we didn't get any track limits invalidation. So maybe if we can turn in a good lap the rest of the way, we'll be able to take advantage of maybe a DSQ from somebody else. But wide through the next corner, wide again. Really just a scrappy, terrible lap so far. Was not a good lap early on the brake zone there. For some reason, after that first mistake, and yeah, wide again, I've just kind of thrown this whole lap away. Probably, I texted it in the Discord chat between the qualifying and the race. It says it's probably literally the worst lap I've ever driven of this track in a qualifying setting. Like, absolutely a terrible lap. But still, no track limits yet. But we go way wide, bump into the wall. So terrible, literally the worst lap I've ever driven. So I intentionally cut that corner to get the invalidated lap time there, just to not show the terrible time. But Nemesis on pole there, Denelson second, K3, P3. We got Fast 6 and the other Ferrari of Racer 04 right next to us, but the 5 red lights are up. Long run into turn 1 here. A lot of slipstreaming opportunities, so a good start is pretty key, but Povey gets by us early on. Gali is going to go ahead and grab a little bit of slipstream as we're going to try and find a safe way to go around. Maybe let's look to the outside on the brakes nice and early. Little touches in front of us, and oh, big spin by Fast 6, and we're along inside through. MJ Povey managed to get by, but we're side by side through this long sweeping left-hander. We're going to have the racing line on the outside for the corner, but he's going to have the inside of the next corner, so we're going to leave him some room on the inside. But Gali dives to the inside. Luckily, double contact keeps us from a full spin, but he just kind of got his nose in there, was a little later on the brakes, and like I said, everybody's being a little aggressive in these 5-lap stints, but I'd have to watch it back. I felt like I left a lot of room. Maybe I shut the door a little bit on, but the contact was made, on the exit, so he just carried a lot of speed through and just kind of plowed out there. But all's fair. He just kind of elbowed his way through. If this was like an actual league race, I would probably be a little more upset with that kind of argy-bargy maneuver. But these 5-lap races, and with damage off, of course, because as a league, we decided that, if somebody gets their wing damaged in lap 1 and have to pit in a 5-lap race, you're done. So we are going no damage. We are, trying to, or at least some of us are trying to race a little cleaner. But definitely a mess in T1 at the start of this race. We are P6 as we cross the line here to start the second lap. And we are 0.8 back of Gali, so no DRS yet. Another lap to finish. Luckily, this is one of the tracks where the DRS straight or DRS zone actually starts after the start finish, and we got a good slipstream there, but not quite enough to really send it up the inside. But the actual start finish straights DRS zone starts after the start finish line, so the lap 3 you immediately can use the DRS through the detection zone. So if we can stay close to Gali here, we might have an opportunity to attack him into T1. So we just need to be clean through these last few corners. Denelson and QX kind of trading fast a slap there. As we cross the line, Jeff's going to tell us DRS is enabled. Looks like Gali got a little bit of a better run out there. But here we are. Rear wing is open. Try and grab some slipstream on this run into T1. But we're already running low on electrical energy. That auto ERS deployment has a tendency to just burn it up. So we aren't going to be able to close up and attack there. We got Fast 6 hounding us on the backside here. All over our back bumper. He's carrying a little more speed around the outside. Grab that bit of slipstream. Is he going to try and dive it up through the next corner? We're going to leave the space. Yeah, he's got plenty of run through and manages to snag that position off of us. As our electrical energy is dwindling here, we're going to just try and hope it doesn't run out down the long straight here and leave us under attack, because although Povey's made some mistakes in the races, he's quick. So he's definitely got the opportunity to close this gap to us. But let's see if we can't utilize this DRS, as Fast 6 is right behind Gali in front, so he's going to have a good opportunity to make an overtake here. So he switches back to the inside of the left-hander on the brakes, carries right around the outside and gets past Gali there. Some big frame drops, unfortunately, for my very unhappy computer at this stage. But we're sitting P7 at the moment, but thus far we've been fairly clean. I've seen Gali in front of us kind of take some liberties with the inside of some of these corners, so we're just going to try and stay close to this group in front, hopefully, and maybe we'll have an opportunity to move some positions based on penalties. But the two Ferraris, again, right next to each other. They've been kind of fighting so far in the early stages of this little championship. So maybe they can force each other into errors. But, man, everybody's a lot quicker. But they're 3 wide of just about going into that corner. And Racer gets touched by Gali and goes into the wall and loses that position. Too much contact side by side. There's plenty of room on that track to leave space, but they just didn't. But jumping ahead, final lap, final DRS zone, and Racer 04 is on the back end of us. So we are going to have to kind of let him by. Probably not a great opportunity to fight. We'll see if we can get the switch back through one of these next corners. Catch that track limits, but we didn't do enough to gather a penalty. Let's see if we can get him in the final sector here. But not a great overtaking opportunity. He's got to really make a mistake for us to get through. But Gali's made his way outside of kind of that 2-second gap. But we are right behind Racer. So if he's got any penalties, we will jump him. So crossing the line here. P6 at the line. And wow, P4 after penalties. M. Denelson drops behind us. Who else lost out on positions? But Denelson, even though he dropped down to P5 behind us, he does have the fastest lap, so he's going to grab that extra point. Basically have the same number of points as us. But it looks like got a McLaren on the top step of the podium there. MJ Povey was bringing up the back, so that's got to be K3. But yeah, 8 seconds of penalties for Denelson, 4 seconds for Racer 04, so we move up those 2 positions. We are pretty close to moving up on the next position there. Only a little bit. If you had another penalty, we would have been there. But that's going to move Nemesis up the table. Fast 6 is going to move up. Povey dropping down with his last place. We, with our good finish, move to 4th. Gali drops down. K3 with that win jumps off the back spot. And Racer 04 has been moved to the bottom of the grid. Now, China heading in here, we have a reverse top 4, 5 of the grid were reversed, and then it's championship order the rest of the way. So we are starting P5 at the moment. Not a great start though. We are just going to try and be safe through big contact, a lot of mess through turn 1. So we're up to P5. And then MJ Povey goes wide. So turn 1 here at China, it's tough to get through kind of safely, but we managed to do it somehow. P4, after a bad start off the line, a lot of carnage in T1, and we're able to clean that up, but it looks like some of the other guys have gotten going again. QX Nemesis on the back of us. So we just got to try and close up to M. Denelson in front, as there's a scrap, it looks like, of the 3 leaders. That's first place, second place, and third place. That's the whole podium running around directly in front of us. But Nemesis right on the back side of us, and as we're about to hit a long straightaway after this kind of snail shell long right-hander, he's going to have great slipstream opportunities. So we're just going to do whatever we can, get the power down nice and early. Denelson a little slow off the corner, so we're going to get some slipstream off of him. And it looks like we got a little bit of a better exit than Nemesis did, so that's going to allow us to hold this position. It looks like not quite close enough to attack Marco in front, but definitely helps us down. But wow, a late, deep lunge from QX, so we kind of saw that one coming and kind of left some room along the inside so he wouldn't, give the old Danny Kvyat and be the Russian torpedo. But he's got great exit off there, so we're going to move to the inside of the track, get off the throttle nice and early, because it's real hard to go side by side through here, and Didn't want either of our races ruined. So we're going to go ahead and let him by safely. He's got, shown good pace getting up to the back of us. And wasn't really going to do us much good fighting him through turn one. It was really just going to be an opportunity for us to crash and ruin both of our races. So discretion being the better part of valor there, kind of letting him through the T1 and then just trying to close back up and attack him again. So down to P5. MJ Povey is making his moves back through the field pretty quickly. He is in the P6 behind us, but he's definitely making his case known that he's reeling us in. So wow, somebody went long, deep. Nemesis way off and totally just unsighted into the braking zone. Well, it did well to avoid contact with anybody else, but that's a big mistake from him. That is going to cost him a big amount of positions and time. We had to make a little avoiding action as they reset to track again, but we are up into P4 and trying to close up again on that lead battle. Good opportunity to close up into the hairpin there. Let's see if we can get a good run out of it. Solid so far. Let's see if we can take this last corner clean. A little bit of a mistake through there. Cut the corner. Little bump over the track limits. That's going to give MJ Povey a great run on us. So we're going to go ahead and try and let him through here. Move to the inside on the brakes early. And he's made contact with the back of us. And we are sideways drifting. Don't know how I saved it there. I don't think I've ever drifted a car that long and not had it totally spin. So, little bit of throttle modulation through there, but yeah, it's an interesting way to take turn one and set it up for turn two. But somehow, with the back end stepping out, just somehow survived it. But we're still P4. Nemesis left the session. His AI is going to go ahead and take over as he's towards the back of the grid there at the moment. But again, that top three fight is still ahead. So we're jumping ahead. Starting of lap 5. And way wide. Carried a little too much speed through turn 1. And that's going to allow fast 6 to catch up to us. We're a little slow getting through, so we're definitely holding him up, and we're wide. And now he's going to go ahead try to go down the inside of us. Instead of diving to the apex, we have to leave a little bit of space. Get a little bit better traction out of there, but he's going to have the outside. We're going inside defensive. Try and hold him off. A little bit of a lock up into the braking zone. Can we get the throttle down and fight him back? A little bit of a run, but we're just going to back off of it. Coming through this long left-hander, side by side this late in the race, it just isn't good. It's just not a good idea. So once again, picking safety as the choice. We're going to go ahead and not fight him through. But there he goes. He's got some oversteer exiting the corner. This is a little short shoot. We are going to have DRS on him down the next main straight and into that hairpin. So we've got an opportunity to attack him back. And that was one of the other reasons why I was okay with not fighting him through that left-hander and kind of easing up, was because I knew if I just kind of chilled, I'd have an opportunity to attack again. So he's making a move to try and break the slipstream. We're going to tuck right in, DRS open, get as much of that rear wing as we can before we dive out. Our electrical energy dwindling as we get ready to hit the braking zone for the hairpin. A little bit of a lockup. He's got a little look on the nose on the inside, and we're a little over-eager on the throttle. A little bit of wheel spin, and there he's just making a little bit of a run, but you're able to just get the throttle back down, clean through the final corner, right on his dark tail as he goes through, but we managed to beat him by a tenth. Just 1/10, so an excellent battle on the final lap with Fast 6. A good, fun one. Basically from like turn 3 all the way through that entire last lap. Enjoyable for us to come through in P4. So the only Mercedes on the grid, Marco Denelson taking the top spot in the race in China here. So Denelson, K3, Racer, myself, Fast 6, Golly, Nemesis, and MJ Povey, unfortunately, with the DNF. And that's the last race of day 1 there. So Denelson also snagging that fastest lap point. And here are the standings after round 5 and after day 1. QX Nemesis at the top spot on 32 points. Fast 6 on 30 points. Marco Denelson moves up to P3, 28 points. Povey drops P4, 26 points. We are sitting P5 on 23 points with K3 right behind us on 22 points. Golly Mooms is on 20 points in P7, and Racer 04, 19 points, bringing up P8. But still a pretty tight championship the first half of the way through. 32-19 is the entire field spread. And with the ability to pick up 11 points in a race win with the fastest lap, definitely some opportunity to make some ground. Now the format of tomorrow will be relatively the same. Little tweaks here and there. But we will be kicking off with, like I said, the classic car, the 09 Braun GP, around Suzuka for the first race. And then we will head off and finish off the season or mini championship with a 50% race around the short track of Britain, and should have an interesting run through there. But I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.